AMC, the scrappy underdog of the American auto industry, was never afraid to take risks. From muscle cars to compacts, they constantly experimented with bold ideas, wild designs, and futuristic tech. But not every brilliant concept made it to production. In secret design studios and test tracks across Michigan and Wisconsin, AMC created some of the most stunning cars you've never seen. Prototypes, one-offs, and near-production models that were quietly shelved, forgotten, or buried. Today we dig up 12 stunning cars AMC built but never released. Beautiful, bizarre, and ahead-of-their-time machines that show just how daring AMC truly was. Don't miss the surprises, and don't forget to subscribe. The 1966 AMC Ramler Rogue 290 V8 is one of those tragically overlooked chapters in American performance car history. A subtle, sneaky, and deeply misunderstood entry that defied the odds and quietly carved out a place in the muscle car conversation. This car didn't scream for attention. It didn't rumble like a Chevelle SS or announce itself with stripes and scoops like a Shelby Mustang. It simply existed, modestly, quietly, with the demeanor of a commuter's compact and the heart of a street fighter. And that was the whole point. American Motors Corporation, AMC, wasn't known for brashness or flash. It wasn't in the same league, size-wise or financially, as Ford, GM, or Chrysler. But what it lacked in resources, it made up for in ingenuity. The company knew it couldn't go toe-to-toe with the big three by copying them. So instead, it did what it always did best: think differently. Enter the Rogue, a model that had been introduced as the sportier version of the Rambler American. It was a small, unassuming two-door hardtop with clean lines and very little ornamentation, almost the automotive equivalent of an honor student wearing a cardigan. But 1966 brought something no one expected: AMC's brand new in-house designed 290 cubic inch V8. Up until that point, AMC had been reliant on older, outsourced V8s, but the 290 was a fresh, compact design meant to compete with Ford's small block 289 and Chevrolet's 283 327. In base form, it produced a respectable 200 horsepower, but the big story wasn't just the power, it was how little the Rogue weighed. At around 2,700 pounds, it was among the lightest V8-powered American cars on the market. That power-to-weight ratio turned it into a genuine sleeper. It could sprint, it could corner, and it could do it all without calling attention to itself. You didn't see it coming, and that was exactly the point. Driving the Rogue 290 was like holding a sharp, secret weapon. It had lively throttle response, a nimble chassis, especially for a solid rear axle car, and enough torque to embarrass more famous names off the line. It was the kind of car you could daily drive, take on road trips, and then dust a Camaro on the weekend. The simplicity of its design meant fewer things to go wrong, and AMC's reputation for durability meant it could take a beating. It wasn't luxurious, but it wasn't crude either. With its optional buckets and console, the interior had a subtle sportiness, just enough to hint at what the car could do without giving the game away. Visually, the 1966 Rogue didn't go out of its way to announce its performance intentions. The styling was restrained, with straight lines, flat surfaces, and a minimalist front grille. The roofline was squared off, but handsome, and the overall proportions were classic: long hood, short deck, narrow waist. Most came in modest colors, with only a small badge or wheel option betraying their true capability. To the untrained eye, it was a secretary's car. To the few who knew what it really was, it was one of the best bang-for-your-buck cars you could buy. But, as with so many AMC stories, the Rogue 290 V8 never got the credit it deserved. It was born into a world dominated by nameplates with massive marketing budgets and established fan bases. It didn't have the cultural momentum of the Mustang, the GTO, or the Roadrunner. AMC didn't race it on the national stage or flood TV ads with burnouts and beach parties. They just quietly built it and quietly let it go. Production numbers were low, and because so many were driven hard or neglected, even fewer have survived. Today, the 1966 Rogue 290 V8 stands as a kind of ghost car.
known mostly to AMC loyalists and deep-cut muscle car fans. But for those lucky enough to find and restore one, it offers something no Camaro or Challenger can replicate: genuine rarity, true underdog spirit, and a design that oozes 60s modesty while hiding a serious punch. It's the muscle car for those who don't need to shout. It's the forgotten fighter that never asked for attention and often didn't get it. But when the light turned green, it earned every bit of respect it was due, one stunned rival at a time.
The 1972 AMC Gremlin X wasn't just a quirky subcompact with muscle aspirations. It was the automotive equivalent of a punk rocker in a polyester disco. Short, loud, aggressive, and defiantly weird, it symbolized everything AMC stood for at the time: scrappy independence, relentless creativity, and a refusal to follow Detroit's rules. What began as an emergency answer to rising fuel prices and foreign competition morphed into one of the most outlandish, oddly compelling, and strangely effective muscle cars ever squeezed into such a compact frame. To appreciate just how bizarre and oddly brilliant the Gremlin X was, you have to start at the root of its creation. In the late 1960s, American Motors Corporation was the smallest of the big four automakers, constantly fighting for relevance against industry giants like GM, Ford, and Chrysler. With the rise of compact imports from Europe and Japan, AMC saw the writing on the wall and knew it needed to build a small, affordable car, fast. But there wasn't time or money to develop an entirely new platform. So AMC did what AMC did best. They improvised. Engineers took the existing Hornet compact, chopped off the rear section just behind the front doors, added a nearly vertical tail with a rear hatch, and called it done. Legend has it the original design sketch was scribbled on an airline barf bag during a cross-country flight. The result was a car that looked like a Hornet that had been rear-ended by a train and kept going. It debuted in 1970, a full year before the Pinto and Vega, and immediately stood out as one of the oddest shapes on the road. Despite the looks, or maybe because of them, the Gremlin sold well. It was cheap, utilitarian, and just different enough to attract attention. But by 1972, AMC wanted more. They wanted to capture the youth market, the kids who grew up on GTOs and Roadrunners but were now broke college students with a lead foot and a budget. So they built the Gremlin X. The X package was AMC's way of transforming the Gremlin from an economy car into something with muscle and swagger. On the outside, you got racing stripes, body-colored rally wheels, a blackout grille, bright side mirrors, and X badging that looked more at home on a comic book cover than a family car. Inside, you got bucket seats, a sportier steering wheel, and optional upgrades like an AM/FM radio or floor-mounted shifter. But the real magic was under the hood. While base Gremlins came with inline sixes, the Gremlin X could be optioned with AMC's own 304 cubic inch V8. This wasn't a race engine, but in a car that weighed barely 2,800 pounds, it didn't need to be. With around 150 horsepower and a solid torque curve, it gave the Gremlin X surprisingly sharp performance. It wasn't a drag strip monster, but it could definitely dust a Mustang II or Chevy Monza in a stoplight duel. And when you floored it, the little box on wheels roared with a deep V8 growl that no one expected. Driving the Gremlin X was a visceral, unapologetic experience. The wheelbase was so short it practically danced through turns, though often more like a drunk wrestler than a ballet dancer. It darted around with a kind of twitchy glee, feeling both alive and slightly dangerous. The ride was rough, the cabin was loud, and the steering had all the precision of a dart thrown in a hurricane. But it had heart. And in an era where many compacts were boring or bland, the Gremlin X was anything but. Mechanically, it was primitive. Solid rear axle, leaf springs, manual steering, drum brakes unless upgraded, but it didn't matter. This wasn't a car built for finesse. It was built to be cheap, fast, and ridiculous fun. And in that, it succeeded beyond expectation. Critics didn't quite know what to make of it. It didn't fit neatly into any category. It wasn't a true muscle car, not a pony car, and not really a compact in the traditional sense. It was just the Gremlin.
And for a generation of gearheads, that was enough. Of course, like all AMC products, the Gremlin X suffered from the usual shortcomings: patchy build quality, limited dealer support, and styling that aged poorly. Rust was a constant threat, and many of these cars simply weren't maintained. Driven into the ground until the frame sagged and the engine gave out, but for those who owned one, it was unforgettable. A former owner once said, "It was like strapping a jet engine to a shopping cart. You never knew if you'd make it to class or the ER, but either way, it was the most fun I've ever had in a car I bought for $900. Today, surviving Gremlin X V8s are scarce. Most were driven hard and left to rot, but a small and loyal cult of enthusiasts keeps their memory alive. These cars now turn heads at car shows and vintage meets, where onlookers do a double take. That little thing has a V8? Yes, it does. In the end, the 1972 AMC Gremlin X was not just a bold little muscle car. It was a middle finger to conformity. A snarling V8-powered raspberry blown at every critic who said AMC couldn't compete. It proved that sometimes crazy ideas work, and that performance and passion can come in the unlikeliest of packages.
The 1980 AMC Eagle SX4 was one of the most misunderstood, unappreciated, and frankly genius vehicles ever to come out of America. A strange, jacked-up, all-wheel drive hatchback coupe that looked like it belonged either on a rally stage or on the cover of a sci-fi paperback. It was bold, awkward, adventurous, and years, perhaps decades, ahead of its time. But in true AMC fashion, it arrived into a market that just wasn't ready, supported by a company that didn't have the resources to explain it to the world. The SX4 was a compact revolution disguised as a curiosity. To understand how the Eagle SX4 came to be, you have to go back to the late 1970s. AMC was in serious financial trouble, again. Sales were shrinking, the Gremlin was outdated, the Matador was gone, and Jeep was AMC's one bright spot. But rather than retreating into conventional thinking, AMC did what it always did best. It threw convention into a blender. What if, they asked, you took a small, affordable car, something like the compact AMC Spirit, and gave it the rugged capability of a Jeep? Not a rear-wheel drive economy car or a big lumbering SUV, but something entirely new. Something that could handle snow, rain, dirt roads, and city commutes. Something for the adventurous young American who wanted to ski, camp, explore, and still make it to work on Monday. Nobody else was doing this, and AMC saw the opportunity. The result was the AMC Eagle lineup, and the SX4 was its most stylish, compact member. While most people remember the larger Eagle wagons, themselves early crossovers, the SX4 was a two-door hatchback coupe with muscular flared fenders, plastic body cladding, raised ride height, and a stance that looked like a rally car on steroids. It was based on the AMC Spirit platform, but had a full-time four-wheel drive system that borrowed heavily from Jeep know-how. This wasn't part-time 4WD, like a truck. It was an early form of what we now call all-wheel drive, permanently engaged and ready for all conditions. The system was developed with help from Ferguson Formula, a British company that had pioneered all-wheel drive systems for Formula One and road cars, and incorporated AMC's Select Drive transfer case, allowing drivers to choose between two-wheel drive and AWD modes depending on conditions. It wasn't just a gimmick. This thing worked. The SX4 could claw its way up snowy hills, power through muddy trails, and cruise confidently over slick city streets long before the term crossover even existed. Under the hood, buyers could get either the dependable 2.5-liter inline-4 or AMC's long-running 4.2-liter inline-6. While the four-banger was adequate, it was the torquey six-cylinder that gave the SX4 real grunt. Paired with a manual transmission, it made the car feel lively and purposeful,
especially when tackling dirt roads or steep inclines. It wasn't fast in the straight line. Think of it more like an automotive goat, agile, durable, and always climbing. Inside, the SX4 was pure AMC, simple, functional, and a little dated. Vinyl and plaid fabric were common, gauges were analog, and the ergonomics were charming than efficient. But the visibility was excellent. The hatch opened to a surprising amount of cargo space, and the seats had just enough bolstering to make long road trips or rougher roads bearable. What made the Eagle SX4 so special was not just its mechanical innovation, it was the spirit of the car. It invited you to explore. It whispered to a generation of drivers that the road didn't have to end at the pavement. You could camp in it, haul gear in it, and still park it at the grocery store. It was, in spirit, what the Subaru Crosstrek would become nearly 30 years later, a small, capable, all-weather, go-anywhere car for people who lived outside the box. But back in 1980, that message didn't land. American buyers were confused. Was it a sports car, a 4x4, a utility vehicle? The styling was too weird for muscle car fans, too small for truck buyers, and too rugged-looking for economy car shoppers. AMC lacked the advertising budget to properly explain what the SX4 was or why you needed it. Reviewers acknowledged its brilliance, but struggled to categorize it. It was too far ahead of its time, and in America, ahead of its time often means out of place. Despite the confusion, a small cult following developed. Young drivers in the Northeast, Rockies, and Pacific Northwest began to embrace it for what it could do, not how it looked. One owner recalled driving through a freak blizzard in Colorado, while pickups and SUVs sat stranded on the highway shoulder. He said, "I passed them all in my little orange SX4. It was unstoppable. I never loved a car like that before." But AMC's days were numbered. By 1987, the company would be absorbed into Chrysler, and the Eagle name would soon be passed on to a confusing series of badge-engineered imports. The original Eagle SX4 was forgotten until now. Today, the few surviving SX4s are coveted by AMC fans and admired by off-road enthusiasts who recognize their importance. With vintage rally styling, true AWD capability, and that unmistakable AMC weirdness, they've become collectible curiosities, representing the birth of the crossover movement long before crossovers were cool. It's no exaggeration to say the SX4 helped invent an entire category, even if nobody realized it at the time. The 1980 AMC Eagle SX4 wasn't just a niche oddball. It was a prophecy on four wheels, a declaration that the future of driving wasn't about horsepower or chrome, but about freedom, capability, and going places others wouldn't dare. And for that, this little mutant coupe deserves its rightful place in the Automotive Hall of Pioneers.
The 1977 AMC Hornet AMX was a strange and fascinating creature, a last gasp of muscle car bravado welded onto a shrinking platform in a shrinking market. By the late 1970s, the golden age of American muscle was long dead. Emissions regulations, insurance costs, and the oil crisis had crushed the high-horsepower dreams of Detroit. Camaro and Mustang had gone soft, Charger became a badge on a luxury coupe, and performance was being redefined in quieter, less thrilling ways. But AMC, ever the oddball underdog, wasn't ready to let go. Instead, they reached deep into their bag of history and brought back a legendary name, AMX. But this wasn't the AMX of 1968, the wide-hipped, short-wheelbase, two-seat rocket that once gave the Corvette a serious scare. No, this was a different beast. For 1977, AMC dusted off the badge and grafted it onto the compact Hornet hatchback, a car originally built as basic transportation. The result? A bizarre fusion of 60s swagger and 70s desperation. Part muscle car, part economy car, and all attitude. At first glance, the 1977 AMX looked like it was trying very hard to be something much faster than it was, and honestly, it kind of pulled it off. With aggressive striping across the hood and sides, body-colored fender flares, bold AMX callouts, and an outrageous rear spoiler, the car screamed performance. Chrome mag-style wheels, blackout grills, and rally gauges added to the illusion. It didn't matter that underneath it all was the aging Hornet platform. AMC's team knew how to create drama on a shoestring budget. Power came from a choice of engines, including a 258 cubic inch inline six, but real enthusiasts went for the 304 cubic inch V8. It wasn't a monster by old-school standards, just over 120 horsepower and smog-choked trim, but the car was light and compact, and the torque delivery gave it a punchy feel around town. The V8 was mated to either a 3-speed automatic or a 4-speed manual, and while it wouldn't outrun a 70 Hemi anything, the AMX could still lay rubber with a smile. It was more about attitude than asphalt dominance. Inside, the Hornet AMX didn't exactly scream luxury, but it did have its quirks. A sporty 3-spoke wheel, high back bucket seats, and optional rally gauges tried their best to channel muscle car vibes. You'd still find hard plastics and economy car roots all around, but AMC always knew how to make cheap feel charming, and this car was no exception. What makes the 1977 AMX so memorable isn't just what it was, it's what it tried to be. AMC didn't have the budget or infrastructure to build a whole new sports car. Instead, they took what they had, gave it the soul of something greater, and aimed it squarely at the kind of buyer who missed the golden days but still had to make monthly payments and worry about gas mileage. It was rebellion on a budget. But of course, the AMX revival didn't last. It was only offered on the Hornet in 1977, and when the Hornet was replaced by the Concorde in 1978, the AMX moved with it, now even more subdued and drifting further from its muscle roots. By 1980, the AMX name would quietly disappear, a ghost of a once proud legacy. Yet, despite its brief run and modest performance, the 1977 Hornet AMX has earned a cult following. It's remembered as one of AMC's boldest attempts to inject excitement into a dying era. It was honest, raw, and weird. The kind of car that turned heads at stoplights, not because it was fast, but because people weren't quite sure what they were looking at. Was it a hatchback, a muscle car, a marketing stunt? The answer was yes, to all of it. One owner described it best. It looked like trouble. Not serious trouble, more like the guy who shows up at the party in a loud shirt, drinks your beer, and wins at darts. You hate him, but you wish you were him. In many ways, the 1977 AMC Hornet AMX was the automotive equivalent of refusing to grow up. The world around it had changed, but this car didn't care. It still wanted to party, even if the band had packed up, the cops were circling, and the keg was dry. It might not have been a purebred muscle car, but it carried the spirit like a torch in the dark. And for that alone, it deserves its moment in the spotlight. The 1967 AMC Marlin was the final and most refined chapter of one of the strangest, most misunderstood experiments in American automotive history. An attempt to create a full-size, personal, luxury fastback coupe from a company known for economy cars. It was bold. It was weird. It was uniquely American. And today, it stands out not only for its rarity, but for how unapologetically different it dared to be. The Marlin's roots trace back to 1965, when AMC, under the leadership of the forward-thinking Roy Abernathy, decided it needed to chase younger, more affluent buyers. The pony car wars were heating up, but instead of going small and sporty like the Mustang, AMC went in the opposite direction. The result was the original 1965 Rambler Marlin, a fastback coupe based on the mid-size Rambler Classic with a long sloping roofline that looked like nothing else on the road. Some loved it, most didn't understand it, but it definitely turned heads. By 1967, the Marlin had evolved, or rather grown. No longer based on the Classic, it was now stretched over AMC's full-size Ambassador platform, making it longer, lower, and more luxurious. The car measured over 200 inches long with a dramatic fastback profile that swept from the roofline down to the rear bumper in a single, unbroken arc. It was AMC's answer to cars like the Dodge Charger and Ford Thunderbird, but with styling cues that were distinctly its own. The nose was pointed and clean, with stacked headlights and a trim grille that hinted at performance. The sides were smooth, almost minimalistic, with restrained chrome and a subtle character line that drew the eye toward the rear. But the centerpiece, unquestionably, was the roof, a massive curved sheet of steel and glass that wrapped around the back of the car like a cape. The rear window was nearly panoramic, framed by dramatic C-pillars and ended in a tapered tail with slim vertical taillights. There simply was nothing else like it. Under the hood, the 1967 Marlin offered a range of engines from a 232 cubic inch inline six to AMC's new 343 cubic inch V8, which produced up to 280 horsepower. It wasn't exactly a muscle car, but it had enough grunt to cruise the highway with ease and looked effortlessly cool doing it. The suspension was tuned more for comfort than aggression, and the interior leaned heavily toward the luxury side of the spectrum, with plush materials, wood-grain trim, and wide, inviting seats. But while the design was dramatic and the engineering competent, the Marlin never found its audience. Only 2,525 units were sold in 1967, a sharp decline from the already modest numbers of previous years. AMC executives had hoped the car would elevate the brand and attract younger buyers who wanted something a little different from the usual GM, Ford, or Chrysler offerings. Instead, it was caught in an identity crisis. Too big and soft to compete with pony cars, too unusual to appeal to conservative buyers, and too obscure to attract the luxury coupe crowd. Part of the issue was timing. By the late 1960s, the muscle car boom was in full swing, and buyers wanted aggressive, lightweight cars with snarling V8s and bold stripes. The Marlin, with its elegant curves and soft-spoken demeanor, felt more like a lounge on wheels than a street brawler. It was more about visual drama and long-distance comfort than quarter-mile times, and that made it a tough sell in a market obsessed with horsepower and performance. And yet, in hindsight, the 1967 Marlin is one of the most visually interesting cars AMC ever built. It's a car that rewards a second glance. From some angles, it looks like a concept car that escaped the design studio. For others, it resembles a rolling Art Deco sculpture. It's rare, eccentric, and surprisingly elegant for a vehicle from a company best known for practical sedans and quirky economy cars. Owners today speak of their Marlins with affection and amusement. "You can't go anywhere without someone asking what it is," said one. "People either stare or scratch their heads, but no one ignores it." Another added, "It's like driving a spaceship from a forgotten future. It may not be fast, but it feels special. It makes you feel like you're in on a secret." Ultimately, the Marlin was a bold experiment, one that didn't succeed commercially but left a lasting impression. After 1967, the nameplate was retired, and AMC turned its attention to smaller, more focused efforts like the Javelin and AMX. But for 3 glorious years, they built a car that defied convention, challenged expectations, and dared to be different. Today, the 1967 Marlin is a rare gem, a misunderstood oddity that deserves more love than it ever received in its own time. It was never meant to be mainstream. It was meant to be memorable.
The 1974 AMC Matador Coupe was one of the most daring, design-forward moves ever made by American Motors, a company known more for quirky compacts and engineering efficiency than for visual flamboyance. But in the mid-1970s, as personal luxury coupes like the Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Pontiac Grand Prix dominated the showroom floor, AMC decided to throw off its conservative image and build something that didn't just compete, it shocked. What resulted was a car that looked like it had rolled off a European concept stand and onto Main Street, USA. It was long, low, curved in all the right places, and entirely unexpected. This wasn't the boxy, practical AMC most Americans were used to. The 1974 Matador Coupe debuted with a swooping fastback silhouette, a wide and rounded nose that almost looked amphibious, and a greenhouse so clean and airy it made other coupes of the era seem clunky by comparison. Gone were the hard angles and upright stance of the old Matador sedan. In their place stood something that resembled a cross between a French Grand Tourer and a Detroit show car. The deeply recessed rear window, almost floating between the sculpted fenders, made the profile instantly memorable. Love it or hate it. AMC designers, led by the bold and sometimes controversial Richard Teague, aimed to make a statement. They succeeded. The Matador Coupe featured a pillarless hardtop roof, frameless doors, and generous glass surfaces that made it feel wide open inside. The long hood and abbreviated rear deck gave it that perfect 70s luxury coupe profile. It had presence, almost to an absurd degree. This was AMC trying to be Cadillac flamboyant, Pontiac sporty, and Euro exotic all at once. It even got a moment of silver screen immortality. A bright red Matador Coupe was driven by villain Francisco Scaramanga in the 1974 James Bond film, The Man with the Golden Gun, where in one of the film's most bizarre scenes, it takes off and becomes a flying car. Yes, a flying AMC. If that doesn't encapsulate the ambition and weirdness of the Matador Coupe, nothing does. But under all the visual drama was still an AMC, which meant solid engineering and an array of powertrain choices. Buyers could opt for an economy-minded straight six or climb all the way up to the 401 cubic inch V8, which gave the Matador Coupe real muscle when it was needed. When equipped with the 401, the Coupe wasn't just a cruiser, it could hustle, especially in police spec, where it found surprising success as a high-speed pursuit vehicle. The 401-powered Matador Coupe actually gained a loyal following among law enforcement agencies, especially in California, where officers praised its straight-line speed and durability. Inside, the Matador Coupe leaned hard into the personal luxury aesthetic of the era. Brougham trims featured pillowy bench seats, faux wood-grain dashboards, thick carpet, opera windows on some trims, and plenty of chrome trim. It was more plush than sporty, more lounge than cockpit, a rolling living room for two. It wasn't exactly refined in a European sense, but it had charm and a distinctly American decadence. Unfortunately, as often happened with AMC's bold experiments, the market didn't respond the way the company hoped. While the coupe sold decently in its first year, thanks largely to curiosity and aggressive marketing, it never gained the momentum of its GM rivals. Part of the problem was that AMC lacked the deep dealer network and brand prestige of Chevrolet or Pontiac. Another issue was price. The Matador Coupe was relatively expensive, and buyers could get a Monte Carlo or Grand Prix with a more powerful engine, a better reputation, and more resale value. And then there was the styling, which while now appreciated for its boldness, was polarizing at best in its own time. The flowing lines and organic shapes looked stunning to some, but to others, the Matador Coupe seemed bulbous and overwrought. One former owner recalled, half fondly, "It looked like a fish trying to impersonate a Corvette." Another said, "You either bought one because you loved it or because you worked for AMC." By the time the Matador Coupe faded out in 1978, AMC had pivoted its focus to more practical and profitable ventures like the Concorde, Spirit, and of course, the revolutionary Eagle. The coupe remained a stylish footnote, a moment when AMC took a big swing for the fences and, if nothing else, created something unforgettable. Today, the 1974 AMC Matador Coupe is an underappreciated artifact of 70s excess, remembered by diehards and design lovers for its outlandish good looks and curious presence in pop culture. Survivors are rare, and those still in good condition can command a surprising amount of attention at shows. It's the kind of car that people walk past twice, first with confusion, then with fascination. It may not have changed the automotive landscape like its creators hoped, but the Matador Coupe still stands as a testament to AMC's fearless willingness to be different. For a brief moment, they didn't just follow trends, they tried to bend them. And in doing so, they built one of the most unforgettable oddballs in American automotive history.
The 1969 AMC Hurst SC/Rambler is a muscle car wrapped in paradoxes, a compact economy car transformed into a drag strip demon through sheer force of will, ingenuity, and a collaboration that combined the grit of American Motors Corporation with the high-performance expertise of Hurst Performance. In the muscle car heyday, when Detroit giants were churning out big, bold, loud machines, AMC was often the underdog, the smaller company forced to innovate and carve out a niche where it could. The SCRamler was that niche in a perfectly unapologetic package, rough around the edges, powerful under the hood, and boldly distinct in appearance. To fully appreciate the SCRambler, you have to look back at AMC's position in 1969. While competitors like Ford and Chevrolet were pouring resources into their muscle car lineups, Mustangs, Camaros, and Challengers, AMC lacked the resources for a flashy, full-scale muscle car offensive. Instead, they took their humble Rambler American Compact, a car designed primarily for economy and practicality, and injected it with a potent dose of muscle. This was not just slapping a big engine in a small car. It was a deliberate, calculated effort to punch above their weight class. The heart of the SCRambler was the legendary 390 cubic inch V8 engine, an AMC power plant known for its strong torque and reliability. In the SCRambler, this engine was rated at 315 horsepower, an impressive figure for the time and especially for such a small car. Paired with a Hurst-tuned 4-speed manual transmission, it gave the car the ability to roar off the line and make quarter-mile times in the low 14-second range, a figure that put it in direct competition with much more expensive, better-known muscle cars. The car's suspension and rear differential were upgraded with performance parts to handle the power, making the SCRambler a genuine performance machine beneath its unassuming exterior. Stylistically, the SCRambler was loud and defiant. The bright red, white, and blue paint job wasn't subtle. It was an overt statement of American muscle pride and a badge of the car's outsider status. Bold stripes, Hurst badges, and a large shaker hood scoop helped visually transform the car from a sensible compact into a rebellious street warrior. Its boxy, almost utilitarian lines contrasted sharply with its aggressive performance and audacious paint, making it both loved and hated by enthusiasts. Unlike the slick, curvy muscle cars of the era, the SCRambler looked like a car that didn't care what you thought. It was built to do one thing, and it did it with attitude. Inside, the car offered a simple but purposeful driver's environment. Sports seats held the driver firmly, a large tachometer kept the engine's revs in check, and the Hurst T-handle shifter provided direct control over the 4 gears. This was no luxury cruiser. It was a car for the serious enthusiast, someone who wanted to feel every ounce of power and command every inch of the road. Despite its raw performance and distinctive look, the SCRambler never reached mass-market success. Only about 1,500 were built, a number dwarfed by the millions of Mustangs and Camaros flooding dealerships. AMC's lack of a deep dealer network and the muscle market's focus on flashier, more famous models meant the SCRambler remained an obscure, somewhat misunderstood muscle car. It didn't have the marketing budget or the iconic status of its competitors, and for many, its boxy, practical appearance was a turnoff. Yet those who recognized its potential found a gem, a car that was fast, nimble, and uncompromising. The SCRambler's legacy is that of an underdog muscle car with a fierce heart. It represents a time when small automakers dared to defy the odds and challenge industry giants by building cars that were not only affordable, but truly competitive. Its combination of raw power, aggressive styling, and rarity make it a coveted collector's piece today. Enthusiasts praise its surprising speed and unique story, and it stands as a testament to AMC's gritty, innovative spirit. In modern muscle car circles, the 1969 AMC Hurst SCRamler holds a special place. A reminder that muscle isn't just about big names or massive production numbers. Sometimes muscle is about scrappy determination, raw power horses hidden in an unlikely package, and the fearless willingness to go fast even when the world expects you not to. It's a car that defies expectations, stands out in a crowd, and continues to fascinate collectors and fans who appreciate its bold, rebellious nature. In the end, the SCRambler is more than just a rare muscle car. It's a symbol of AMC's fight for relevance, a flash of brilliance from a company often overshadowed, and a blazing example of American muscle car culture's wild, unpredictable heart.
Its story, loud paint, roaring V8, drag strip domination, and cult status, captures the essence of muscle car passion in its purest, most unfiltered form.
The 1975 AMC Pacer X stands as one of the most fascinating and unconventional vehicles ever produced by an American automaker. A car that dared to rewrite the rules of compact car design during an era when conformity was the safer path. Far from being just another small economy car, the Pacer X was an ambitious experiment. A bubble-shaped, wide-bodied hatchback with a futuristic appearance that seemed to challenge everything the industry knew about automotive proportions and passenger comfort. Today, it's cherished by enthusiasts for its unapologetic eccentricity, but in its time, it was a bold gamble that confounded buyers and critics alike. At first glance, the Pacer X's styling is unmistakable. A curvaceous, rounded form, unlike any contemporary car, wrapped in expansive glass that gives it a fishbowl greenhouse effect. Its designers envisioned a compact that wouldn't feel cramped or claustrophobic, and they delivered on that promise, with glass that stretched from an enormous curved windshield all the way to the doors and rear hatch. This design wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about rethinking interior space and visibility. The result was a roomy, airy cabin that felt more like a miniature lounge than a typical subcompact car's interior. The wide stance and asymmetrical door sizes, with the passenger side door larger to ease ingress and egress, made the Pacer highly practical in urban environments, where parking and tight spaces were common challenges. Mechanically, the Pacer X pushed boundaries too. It wasn't content with just being a quirky little hatchback. AMC offered it with a choice of engines, including a rare optional V8, a bold move that set it apart from the tiny, underpowered compacts flooding the market during the mid-1970s. The V8 option transformed the Pacer X from an oddball city car into a surprisingly quick and capable machine, allowing it to accelerate with vigor and cruise at highway speeds confidently. The interior matched the sporty intentions, outfitted with bucket seats for driver and passenger, rally-style gauges, and a floor-mounted shifter that gave a more engaging driving experience than the more common column shifters found in economy cars of the time. These details gave the Pacer X a hint of muscle car attitude wrapped in its futuristic bubble. Despite these advances, the Pacer X was a tough sell. Its radical design polarized the buying public. To many, it looked awkward, almost cartoonish, an oddity that clashed with the more conservative tastes dominating the American market. The car's unconventional proportions, with its wide body and short length, made it stand out in ways that weren't always appreciated. Meanwhile, its price point was often higher than some more traditional compacts, causing some buyers to opt for something more familiar. AMC's limited dealer network and marketing muscle compared to Detroit's Big Three also hampered the Pacer's reach. Yet, AMC was undeterred. They envisioned the Pacer as a forward-looking car that anticipated changing needs for urban transportation, passenger comfort, and safety. Over the years, the Pacer's reputation evolved. Initially met with bemusement or disdain, it gradually became a cult favorite among collectors and fans of 1970s Americana. The Pacer's distinct silhouette has since found its place in pop culture, from movies and TV shows to art and design circles, as a symbol of an era when American automakers still dared to take risks and challenge norms. Enthusiasts today celebrate the Pacer X for exactly what it was, an unapologetically weird, innovative, and ahead-of-its-time creation that combined futuristic styling, surprising performance, and urban practicality into one bubble-shaped package. Today, surviving Pacers are rare and highly prized. Their distinctive looks, combined with a unique blend of engineering ambition and quirky charm, make them standout collector pieces. The Pacer X is not just a car, it's a rolling testament to AMC's fearless approach during a challenging time for the American auto industry, when small manufacturers fought to stay relevant by embracing originality over safe repetition. In essence, the 1975 AMC Pacer X was a vision of the future that didn't quite fit into its own time. Its bulbous body and wide stance broke every conventional rule, and its mix of comfort, style, and surprising power made it a one-of-a-kind car that remains unforgettable. It stands today as a rare symbol of American automotive creativity, a bubble-shaped dream that dared to be different and continues to capture the imagination of all who see it.
The 1964 AMC Rambler Tarpon concept is a fascinating, pivotal moment in the story of American Motors Corporation, a company often overshadowed by the Detroit Giants, but occasionally capable of bold, visionary moves that challenged conventional thinking in the automotive world. Long before the pony car wars officially erupted with the launch of the Ford Mustang in April 1964, AMC had quietly set the stage for a sportier, more youthful image with the Tarpon. A sleek and aggressive fastback coupe concept that promised to break away from AMC's traditional reputation for producing conservative, reliable, but largely unexciting family cars. The Tarpon was, in many ways, AMC's first serious attempt to stake a claim in the emerging market for compact performance cars that combined a style, speed, and attitude. An attempt that was both ahead of its time and ultimately compromised by corporate caution. At its core, the Tarpon was built on the proven underpinnings of the Rambler American, AMC's compact platform that had earned respect for practicality and economy. But where the Rambler American was sensible and restrained, the Tarpon was all about flair, presence, and personality. Its fastback silhouette featured a dramatic, low-slung roofline that swept gracefully from the windshield back to the rear deck, creating a streamlined profile that looked purposeful and aerodynamic. The concept's sculpted body had taut, flowing lines that suggested movement even at rest, eschewing the heavy chrome ornamentation common in the era for cleaner surfaces and subtle details. With tight front and rear overhangs, a compact wheelbase, and an aggressive stance, the Tarpon seemed to radiate a sense of nimbleness and sportiness unusual for an American car of that time. The design cues were distinctly European-influenced, reflecting the influence of designer Richard A. Teague and AMC's growing appreciation for stylish Italian coach building and modern aesthetics. The Tarpon's minimalist grille, flush-mounted headlights, and narrow taillights further emphasized its clean, purposeful look. Inside, although details are sparse, the concept promised a driver-focused cabin oriented toward youthful buyers who wanted a car that was not just transportation, but a statement of identity and excitement. With sporty bucket seats, a simple but functional dash, and a cockpit-like feel, the Tarpon was clearly designed with the driver's passion in mind, setting it apart from the bland interiors common in AMC's lineup. However, despite the Tarpon's obvious appeal and timely arrival, AMC's internal priorities and market concerns quickly curtailed its potential. The fastback roofline, while undeniably stylish, compromised rear seat headroom, a critical factor for American buyers who valued practicality and comfort for passengers. AMC's leadership, conservative by nature and wary of alienating their core buyers, ultimately decided that the Tarpon's radical styling was too risky to mass produce. Instead, AMC developed the Marlin, a larger, more conventional fastback coupe with a higher roofline that sacrificed some of the Tarpon's tautness and aggressive posture for additional interior space and a more mainstream appeal. The Marlin, introduced in 1965, carried some of the Tarpon spirit, but felt like a diluted compromise. With its bulkier body, taller roof, and more restrained design, the Marlin failed to capture the youthful enthusiasm and sleek aggression that the Tarpon promised. It was too big to compete directly with the pony cars, too expensive and luxurious to appeal to economy buyers, and not quite sporty enough to excite muscle car fans. Consequently, the Marlin remained a niche player, selling modestly but never shaking AMC's reputation as a maker of practical, unspectacular cars. Meanwhile, the Tarpon concept itself faded into the archives, a tantalizing glimpse of what might have been. a missed opportunity for AMC to define a new segment or at least carve a stronger identity in a rapidly changing market. Today, the 1964 AMC Rambler Tarpon stands as an evocative symbol of AMC's moment of ambition, a beautiful what-if that captures a brief period when the company dared to dream beyond the norm. It represents a unique blend of American and European design influences, a compact coupe with a bold personality long before the pony cars rewrote the rules. The Tarpon's sleek fastback profile and sharp, understated details remain striking even decades later, illustrating a design sensibility that was both modern and timeless. Moreover, the Tarpon holds historical significance because it predates and arguably anticipates many design trends that became central to American performance cars later in the 1960s. Its focus on sporty aesthetics, driver engagement, and compact size aligns with what muscle and pony car buyers would come to demand. Had AMC fully embraced the Tarpon without compromise, it might have dramatically altered the company's trajectory, offering a serious competitor to the Mustang, Camaro, and Barracuda, and potentially transforming AMC's image from that of a cautious underdog to a bold innovator. In the grand sweep of automotive history, the Rambler Tarpon is remembered as a rare moment when AMC reached for the stars and nearly touched them. It's a concept that tantalizes enthusiasts and collectors alike with its purity of vision and elegant execution. Though it never entered production, the Tarpon lives on as a symbol of creativity, daring, and the complex balancing act between innovation and market realities that define the automotive industry. For fans of AMC and muscle car history, it's a reminder that even the most unlikely players sometimes have moments of brilliance, moments that can still inspire awe nearly 60 years later.
The 1971 AMC Javelin AMX stands as one of the most remarkable and underappreciated chapters in the muscle car era, embodying a fierce determination from American Motors Corporation, AMC, to stake its claim in a fiercely competitive automotive landscape dominated by Detroit's Big Three. By 1971, the muscle car wars were in full swing, with Chevrolet's Camaro, Ford's Mustang, and Dodge's Charger commanding headlines and showroom floors. Yet AMC, a smaller automaker often overshadowed by the giants, wasn't content to play second fiddle. Instead, they doubled down on the Javelin platform, transforming it into a legitimate muscle car powerhouse that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the best. The 1971 redesign was radical and unmistakable. The Javelin AMX emerged with an imposing, aggressive stance that broadcast its intentions loud and clear. The body was sculpted with wide, flared wheel arches that bulged menacingly over the tires, giving the car an almost muscular physique that was impossible to ignore. This was a Javelin remade for battle, shedding any remnants of timid styling in favor of a bold, curvaceous form that embraced aggression and power. The long hood stretched forward with purpose, while the fastback rear end ended in a sweeping curve, combining aerodynamic sensibilities with a classic muscle car profile. The front grille and dual headlights added to the mean, purposeful look, while subtle hood scoops hinted at the firepower beneath. Under the hood, the heart of this beast was AMC's mighty 401 cubic inch V8, the largest and most potent engine AMC ever offered in the Javelin. Producing around 335 horsepower and a crushing 430 pound-feet of torque, this big block power plant delivered thunderous performance that defied the Javelin's relatively small size and weight. The engine's raw grunt, paired with heavy-duty suspension upgrades and optional performance packages, meant that the Javelin AMX wasn't just about looks, it could really move. With an aggressive camshaft, solid lifters, and a 4-barrel carburetor, the 401 was an engine tuned for power and muscle, capable of lunging the car from 0 to 60 in mere seconds and laying down quarter-mile times that surprised more established muscle cars. However, what truly set the 1971 Javelin AMX apart wasn't just its street presence or brute force, but its racing pedigree. AMC fully embraced motorsport as a way to prove their performance credentials, and the Javelin AMX became a dominant force in the Trans Am Racing Series, a battleground for muscle car supremacy that captivated American fans in the late 1960s and early 1970s.
Under the guidance of Roger Penske, one of the most astute team owners in racing history, and driven by the legendary Mark Donohue, the Javelin was transformed from a street muscle car into a finely tuned racing machine. Penske's meticulous preparation, combined with Donohue's engineering genius and fearless driving, resulted in a car that not only competed but triumphed against the established powers like Ford and Chevrolet, marking AMC as a true competitor in the high-stakes world of professional racing. The Penske Javelin's success on the track elevated the car's status among enthusiasts and collectors alike. It proved that AMC was capable of engineering a muscle car that was not only powerful, but also balanced and capable of winning races at the highest level. This racing heritage adds a layer of mystique and respect that few muscle cars of the era can claim, especially from a smaller manufacturer like AMC. Inside, the Javelin AMX balanced performance with a surprisingly refined and driver-focused interior. The cabin featured sporty bucket seats, a center console with rally-style gauges, and a thick-rimmed steering wheel designed to give the driver maximum control and feedback. Though not as luxurious as some competitors, the Javelin's interior was functional and complemented its aggressive nature, with design elements that emphasized speed and precision rather than comfort. Despite its strengths, the Javelin AMX was not without its challenges. AMC's limited production capacity and smaller dealer network meant that the car was never as widespread or popular as muscle cars from Detroit's giants. Additionally, the muscle car market was beginning to shift by the early 1970s, with tightening emissions regulations and rising insurance costs putting pressure on high-performance vehicles. Yet, for the few who owned a Javelin AMX, it was a statement of individuality and raw power, an underdog's muscle car with a fierce heart and unique style. Today, the 1971 AMC Javelin AMX holds a special place in automotive history as a symbol of AMC's tenacity and innovation. It's a car that dares to be different, a beautifully aggressive muscle car that combines bold design, serious power, and genuine racing success. Collectors prize it for its rarity and the story it tells, one of a smaller automaker punching above its weight, competing with the best, and creating something truly unforgettable. Driving or simply admiring a 1971 AMC Javelin AMX is to glimpse a time when American muscle was raw, unapologetic, and fiercely competitive, and when AMC refused to be ignored.
The 1968 AMC AMX occupies a singular place in muscle car history, not just as another high-performance coupe from the era, but as a symbol of audacity and innovation from a smaller American automaker daring to take on the industry giants. At a time when muscle cars were defined by their brute power, long wheelbases, and four-seat configurations, AMC's AMX broke all the rules by presenting a compact, two-seat sports car that combined serious firepower with a sharply aggressive, streamlined design, all while remaining relatively affordable compared to its bigger competitors. The origins of the AMX trace back to AMC's desire to compete in the pony and muscle car segments dominated by Ford's Mustang, Chevrolet's Camaro, and Pontiac's Firebird. But unlike those cars, which were generally four-seaters designed for a broad market, the AMX was engineered as a purist's muscle car, short, sharp, and focused exclusively on performance. AMC took the mid-sized Javelin platform and radically shortened the wheelbase to 97 inches, shaving off nearly 1.5 feet from the car's length. This gave the AMX a strikingly compact footprint, which not only made it visually unique, but also enhanced its agility and handling dynamics, making it more nimble than most muscle cars of the period. Styling-wise, the AMX was a masterpiece of late 60s American muscle aesthetics, yet with a hint of European sports car influence. The long, low hood stretched forward with purposeful intensity, while the wide, aggressive grille and hood scoops hinted at power beneath. Its fenders bulged just enough to accommodate wide tires, signaling that this was a car meant for serious performance. The roofline was sleek and fastback-inspired, giving the AMX a silhouette that suggested speed even at a standstill. The rear quarter windows were triangular and somewhat aggressive, complementing the overall sharp lines of the bodywork.
Inside, the AMX combined muscle car simplicity with a driver-focused layout, offering bucket seats, a sporty steering wheel, and straightforward gauges that put performance front and center. Under the hood, AMC offered a variety of engines, but it was the potent 390 cubic inch V8 that truly defined the AMX's muscle car credentials. With roughly 315 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque, this big block engine propelled the AMX with ferocity, capable of quick launches and strong mid-range power that made it competitive on both street and track. While the base models sometimes featured smaller engines, the 390 V8 was the heart and soul of the AMX, transforming it from a mere sporty coupe into a muscle car legend. This engine, combined with the car's relatively low curb weight, around 3,200 pounds, delivered a power-to-weight ratio that rivaled more expensive performance cars like the Corvette and even some early European sports cars. One of the most remarkable aspects of the 1968 AMX was its status as a true two-seater, an almost unique proposition in the American muscle car world. While other muscle cars typically had room for 4 passengers, AMC deliberately sacrificed rear seating to emphasize the car's sports car character and reduce weight. This decision reflected AMC's focus on purity and performance rather than practicality, and it helped the AMX carve out a niche as a serious competitor for buyers who wanted a muscle car with sports car agility. The compact two-seat configuration gave it an exotic feel and allowed for a more concentrated, driver-centric experience, something muscle car enthusiasts deeply appreciate. Beyond its street presence, the AMX was also a competitive racer. AMC invested in motorsport programs that allowed the AMX to shine in SCCA Trans Am racing and other series where its lightweight chassis and powerful V8 gave it a distinct advantage on twisty circuits. Racing legends like Roger Penske and drivers like Mark Donohue piloted the AMX to victory against heavier, more established competitors from Ford and Chevrolet, lending the car both credibility and a fierce reputation on the track. These wins helped cement AMC's image as a manufacturer willing to innovate and push performance boundaries, despite its smaller size and fewer resources.
The 1970 AMC AMX3 is not just a rare car, it's a bold statement, a fascinating crossroads where American muscle ambition collided with European design mastery. AMC, American Motors Corporation, was known primarily as a small, independent automaker trying to compete against Detroit's Big Three giants. Yet, with the AMX3, AMC stepped far outside its comfort zone, attempting something almost unthinkable for a company of its size, to build a mid-engine supercar that could challenge the world's best exotic sports cars, Ferrari and Lamborghini foremost among them. The origins of the AMX3 trace back to AMC's desire to expand its performance image beyond traditional pony cars and muscle coupes. The first-generation AMX was a successful, front-engine, two-seater muscle car. But AMC wanted to make a leap into a completely different category, something more exotic, more sophisticated, and designed with a global market in mind. To do that, AMC needed expertise and craftsmanship far beyond its normal production capabilities, so they turned to Italy, a place synonymous with world-class sports car design and coach building. Giotto Bizzarini, one of Italy's most renowned automotive engineers, was central to the project. Known for his work on the Ferrari 250 GTO and later for crafting the Iso Grifo and other legendary cars, Bizzarini brought an unmatched pedigree to the AMX3. His involvement meant the project had serious performance and engineering credentials, not just marketing hype. The car was built with a steel monocoque chassis, advanced for its time, providing a rigid, lightweight foundation perfect for high-speed stability and precise handling. Styling was equally ambitious. The AMX3 featured sleek aerodynamic lines with a pronounced wedge shape, a sharply sloping nose and muscular rear haunch that gave it an aggressive, purposeful stance. It looked like a car that could not only compete on the track, but dominate the streets of Europe or America with equal flair.
The design was both timeless and futuristic, clean and sharp, with no unnecessary ornamentation, emphasizing form following function. The cabin was minimalistic but luxurious, blending Italian leather and craftsmanship with American practicality, offering a surprisingly comfortable driving environment for such a wild machine. Under the hood, or rather behind the seats, roared AMC's tried-and-true 390 cubic inch or 6.4-liter V8, a power plant known for its reliability and muscle. Bizzarini and AMC engineers adapted this engine to the mid-engine layout, creating a car that offered brutal power but with better balance and handling than AMC's front-engine muscle cars. With around 340 horsepower, the AMX3 could sprint to nearly 160 miles per hour, making it competitive with European supercars of the day. But despite its technical brilliance and eye-catching design, the AMX3 was a victim of economics and timing. The cost of hand-building such a complex, low-volume exotic in Italy was astronomical, far beyond what AMC's modest resources could sustain. Furthermore, tightening U.S. emissions and safety regulations in the early 1970s made bringing such a car to market impractical. AMC's leadership, wary of the financial risks, decided to pull the plug just as the car was starting to attract serious interest. Only 6 AMX3s were ever completed, making it one of the rarest and most valuable American cars ever produced. Today, the AMX3 is a treasured rarity. It represents a high watermark of AMC's ambition and a tantalizing glimpse of a different path American muscle cars might have taken. Collectors and enthusiasts prize it not just for its extreme rarity, but for its story. A mid-engine American muscle car made in Italy, blending raw V8 power with sophisticated European design and engineering. The AMX3 remains a symbol of boldness and innovation, a true what-if of automotive history. In the world of muscle and exotic cars, it stands alone as a magnificent, almost mythical fusion of two automotive cultures that rarely met so perfectly.